You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the July 10th meeting of the Michigan City Fire Merit Commission. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Let's call to order the City Fire Merit Commission meeting for Monday, July 10th. Pledge of consent for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Mr. Kalavic.
Present.
Mr. Deutscher.
Present.
Mr. Biji.
Present.
Mr. Adrian.
Present.
And Mr. Nyland is present. Approval of the minutes from the June meeting. Need a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the June 5th, 2023 Michigan City Fire Merit Commission meeting.
I'll second it.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Communications and claims. I received an invoice for the test booklets of $1,078. I forwarded that, and it has been paid from what I've been told. Anybody else have any communications or claims? Report from City Council Representative. Report from Commission Attorney, not present. Report from Local, not here. Report from the Fire Chief, he's here.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to go over our calls for the month of June 2023. We had a total of 434 calls. 22 were under fire, which included 4 structure fire, 2 mobile home vehicle fires, 8 natural vegetation fire, 6 rubbish fire, and 1 special outside fire. We had 329 rescue and emergency medical service incidents, 17 rescues, emergency medical, 288 medical assist, 19 emergency medical service incident, 3 extrication rescue, 1 water or ice related, and 1 electrical issue rescue. 23 hazardous condition, no fire, which included flammable gas or liquid condition, 17 combustible flammable spills or leaks, 1 chemical release reaction or toxic condition, 4 electrical wiring equipment problems. 9 service calls, 1 was listed as other, 1 water problem, 3 public service assistance, 4 unauthorized burning. 43 good intent calls, which included 17 listed as good intent other, 19 dispatched and canceled en route, 4 wrong location, no emergency found, and 3 steam or other gas mistaken for smoke. We had 6 false alarm or false calls, which included 2 false alarms, 3 system or detector malfunction, and 1 unintentional system detector operation, no fire, and then 2 special incident calls. I'd also like to go over our anniversaries for July, this upcoming month, or we'll have to do now. July anniversaries are Captain John Mellon with 29 years, Captain Barrett Taylor with 20 years, Lieutenant Christian Beatree with 14 years, driver operator Jenna Tepeditsky, 8 years, Lieutenant Nicholas Pavone with 8 years, training officer Will Sontag with 8 years, firefighters Christopher Blake with 6 years, and our executive secretary Jenny Claus with 6 years. Back to the number of calls. We had 9 Narcan were used on different calls. Forgot to report that, sorry. So that's our call volume for the month of June, and then our anniversaries for July. And other than I'm sure you guys will talk about it here, our meeting, the workshop that Councilwoman Angie Deitch called for, we discussed merit commission changes, so I think we're headed in the right direction there. It was great that we're finally doing something, so I'm assuming you guys will talk about that. If not, we'll get with a councilwoman figure out what's next.
I do have a question.
Okay?
When are we looking at that will be passed and taken care of? Do we know? Well, no,
Are you talking about the fire merit
the
ordinance?
merit ordinance, the new changes.
I don't know what I
We
projected.
didn't set a timeline. When we
No.
talked last time, we said we probably have to do another workshop.
Mhm.
Just kind of, I know, I did have a conversation, with, Barrett Taylor. He told me that he wasn't gonna be here this evening. He shared that, but, the percentages, we talked specifically, about, what that could look like with veterans, keeping the 15% residency, but what changes as far as the subjective, like how do we minimize some of the subjectivity and make it more objective as far as the point system? So I think that will take another meeting for us to get through that, as far as what that could look like.
The only reason I'm asking is because we're gonna set a date for the testing of new applicants. And if you pass that, the new merit ordinance, and I believe one of the changes in the new merit ordinance is gonna be the age of 40.
Oh, no, that's on the agenda already.
That is on the agenda. Well,
That's already on the agenda.
That was gonna go to first reading, but they had to postpone the meeting last Tuesday. They didn't have a police officer there, which is by ordinance they have to. So that'll be all carried over to the next, and then probably the first meeting in August, they'll
Yes,
have it on second and third reading. But it's okay, because we can use, because it's already, it took effect July 1st under state law, and the state law takes precedence over the ordinance.
Yeah, so it's already on the
Yeah.
agenda though.
So we can already set them up to 40 years old.
And here's a copy, do you want a copy of, I do have an extra copy of it too. If you need a copy.
So you're saying that we can hire 40-year-olds now,
Yes,
even though it's not passed, because you're saying because it's in the state ordinance?
yes, under the state statute.
When are you doing the testing?
Well, we're making that date today. It's gonna be
Okay.
probably in August is probably gonna be the first test, and then September is gonna be the oral interviews.
Well, I'm asking for second and third reading at the first meeting in August. So that's August, 1st, or second, it's August, 1st. So that's, when it would be passed. If we go to second and third reading.
All at the same time.
Mhm.
Okay, so then we're looking, okay. That's, I just need to know so we know. Because I believe we sent out letters to the two people that are older than 40, stating that they are disqualified because of their age.
Right.
Now we're gonna have to turn around and send them letters back to them and said, hey, they passed the ordinance and you're okay to come test now.
You said they're over 40?
They're over 40.
I mean, under 40, they're over 35.
They're over 35, yeah, they can go ahead and bike test.
Okay.
Well, but the thing is, we already sent out letters stating to them that they cannot test because our merit ordinance states you gotta be 35 as a date. But we can change that at the time, but if we change that, they can come back and they can test.
But at our last fire merit meeting, so when did you send the letters out? Because we discussed July 1st.
Secretary here sent them out prior to that.
Prior to that meeting.
Oh, prior to our
Yes.
Yeah,
last
because
fire?
we've had these, right, we've had
Yeah, it was over a month ago.
applications for a while.
Yes.
I mean,
They were all Trumps.
Yep.
yeah, I think I sent a letter. I mean, it's on the agenda,
Okay.
and if the testing is after August 1st,
Oh, it's gonna, yeah, I see it not being until like August 26th is what I'm.
It'll probably be passed by
I
then.
would send them a letter just stating that the state law has passed and that the council is taking action
To change it.
to make sure that the ordinance
We can always
corresponds.
call for a special meeting too, and have it.
There's only two of them, right?
Yeah, there's only two of them.
You'd come in contact with them. Get records here.
We still have their applications, so, okay.
At the time, we're going by what the law said.
All right.
That's it for me, sir.
That's it for you.
Other than, we have our 81, we're at 81 right now, full complement of firefighters. And we have a tentative date, I believe, for September for the next career academy at the Mac Center. And we'll have to send, I believe, 5 to that. And no need of any promotions or hires.
You see, we got 2 new probationary firefighters.
Yes, sir, they're on shift,
Cool.
doing well.
All right.
Retirees, you say there's nothing coming up?
Nothing that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
Okay, then let's go to old business. So under old business, we need to make a date for the testing for the new applicants and the ladder climb to be the same date. Anybody want to throw a date out?
I'm good with August 26th.
Okay, when is that?
That's a Saturday,
August 25th, you said?
6.
26th?
And what time do we want to start?
9 o'clock.
As long as the weather permitting.
Well,
Is that
they
the
get we get that'd be the written.
Okay.
And the ladder climb follows.
Doors open at 8, test at 9.
You want them sitting here for an hour waiting? That's my thing. There's 46 of them though, there's gonna be 47 of them, 49 of them.
It's gonna be here, right?
And 8:30.
Gives you an hour to get them checked in and
Yeah,
get
we gotta
them
sign them all in.
9 sounds, 9?
Yeah,
That's
test will start at 9.
Oh, doors open at 8, start at 9, right?
Test will start at 9.
8 a.m. check-in. All right, now do we want to make a date for the physical agility test now, or do we want to wait till after the testing to make a date?
providing X amount of them pass.
We can still make a date, and that would probably be in September sometime.
Correct.
Yeah, it's subject to change, we can make a date, yeah.
That would be a Saturday too.
I would say that's the best day to do it, would be during a week on a Saturday.
Saturday the 9th.
It's right after Labor Day.
That gives us
We give us
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
It's a ladder test, you say?
No,
So that's,
that's
The
the
ladder test will
physical
follow the
agility
written
test,
test.
the CPAT.
Because if you
9th
don't climb the ladder, there's no sense showing up for this test.
Correct, 9th or the 16th?
16.
16.
Wait, let me, okay. go ahead.
16th.
that's
It'll
it.
give us 3 weeks.
All right. So let's get the date set, then we'll have to make a motion. Not test.
And what time what time did you do the last one? I don't know.
I would say same thing, 9
Eight.
o'clock.
8 to 9 registration?
Yeah.
8 to 9 check-in?
Well, yeah,
8:30 to 9?
8, well, we'll see how many there, let's just say 8
Where do
o'clock.
they do this, where do they do that? Do they do that with Hitchcock?
Yes.
8 o'clock, test starts at 9.
It'll be all in their letter to them, so
Okay, you guys will type that.
they'll type, yeah, it's our secretary will do that.
So the written test and the ladder climb would be here, and the CPAT would be at the fire training center on Hitchcock.
Correct.
Do they even do the ladder climb here, or do they go over to Hitchcock?
We will do that here.
Okay.
We did it at the school
Well, here at the school, wherever the chief wants to set the ladder up to go.
It
administration.
works better over at the school administration parking lot,
A lot more room.
It'd be cool.
because you're gonna have 40-some cars out here, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I believe we need a motion for the testing, the written test and ladder climb on the 26th of August, starting at, check-in at 8, testing starts at 9 o'clock sharp.
I'll make the motion that the written test for new applicants will be on August 26th. Doors will open at 8 o'clock, test will start at 9.
I'll second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Abstained? None. All right, now we need another one for the agility test on September 16th.
I'll make a motion if we schedule the agility test on September 16th. Times are, doors open up at 8 o'clock, and testing starts at 9 o'clock.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Noes? All right, that's set. Very well. Anybody else have any other old business? No? New business? Any new business? Public comments?
I've got a question, Chief.
Public comments.
Okay, go ahead.
I go with the chief, go ahead and go before Mr. Commission comments.
Just a quick question on, I think you guys in last year did this for the interviews. You're just gonna figure the interview section out after the,
After receiving
See how
passes,
many-
after, yes.
I did appreciate you guys doing the interview separate.
Yeah, we're bringing it, well, because, it shows, how they
It's
dress,
much more professional.
things like
yes.
that,
Yes.
Yeah.
It was very
And we can
difficult
set
to-
the date after the test, and then we know who's there.
That's what, and how many you have to deal with.
Right.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to say that I think it went much better with the interview, a different day. In the past, they've done it on the day of physical agility, and it's just not.
We did that interview.
And it was just fine.
Separate day.
Yeah, I was here for that.
No, that was it.
Okay. Public comment?
Fine.
Yes. Rodney McCormick, 617 Union Street. I was at the workshop you guys had at City Hall. I just want to say that you guys did a good job communicating with each other and with City Councilwoman Angie Nelson Deitch. I believe Brian Dabney was there as well. But you guys, it seemed like you're level-headed and you're willing to work this out. The only thing I like to say that the residency rule, that 15% or 15 points, whichever way it is, that should stay in place. I'm pretty sure with all you guys talking to each other, you can work out there, you move the numbers around everywhere else to get where you have to get to. Because we do need firefighters, but the 1978 consent decree, the judgment was for all Michigan City departments, not just the fire. Fire department is what got us there. Their hiring practice. Things have changed a little bit, a lot. And hopefully with you guys understanding what's going on and being we're trying to remember some of the past that was bad, make sure that we'll never go back that way ever again. So I appreciate coming to these meetings. It's my second one, I enjoy it. Keep up the good work, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I had something to add.
Okay?
So, what I'll do is organize a couple of the, I have a lot of notes from that meeting. And one of the things that we talked about was the lateral transfer, and that was really what me and Barrett were supposed to be. I think that's what you're talking for, is the lateral transfer, because we do have the police, what they have in their contract. I do have the contract to see the language, but that's why that percentage was important, because historically what happened is we gave more emphasis on education versus residency. And what was happening is you had people who were volunteer firefighters who had fire science. But if we want lateral transfers, we have to still increase the education piece, because we want people who are already experienced, and that's gonna get them the points. So I think as maybe as a commission, consider, what your thoughts are on what those percentages look like versus what the union would consider versus what I would present, so that we can kind of then work through it. Because when I thought about it, we still give preference to, we give even a point for the son or daughter of a firefighter. Or, and I'm like, how relevant is that now in a city our size? Versus, a military person who comes with experience. I think that's experience that is important as well. And we give very little to that. So, I would ask that you all think about those percentages, and maybe we can discuss it on the next agenda. Let me make sure. It's usually the first, I think I'm out of town.
It's the first Monday of the
I
month.
know, I think I'm coming back, I'm on vacation. But again, this is not like hurry, we're just trying to make sure we're thoughtful in how we present it, but for lateral transfers, that education percentage is gonna be important. I just want to stress that.
And I just want to stress that no matter what, we can move these percentages around I want, but the 15% for the city residents got to stay in the consent of judgment.
But we don't want, because what will happen, if we don't move some of the, because there was one of the biggest buckets which I thought was too much. I got way too many notes from the last time. Yeah, it was the interviewer, one of those.
Yeah, they said the oral interview's weighted too high.
Yeah,
The 15% for the oral interview,
And we were talking
the personal
about that.
interview.
You know, is that really, because again, and this is me as coming from a space of prior management experience in interviewing and hiring people, that we all have biases when we do interviews. And if we're not gonna do some type of training and have some type of matrix that everybody follows and that we prep for it in advance of it, it's always gonna be what it is. Somebody's gonna have a bias towards someone or a likeness to somebody, and I think it's weighted too high. So, and that's just my opinion for that. So I think there's opportunity to move some of those points to education, from that area. And we had a great discussion, you in particular, about, interviewing and what that looks like. So I would just say, think about that as we move forward.
If we're gonna put numbers, excuse me, go ahead. If we're gonna put numbers on education, do we wanna come up with a test for these bilateral, these transfers that, okay, so they come with all these certificates, so that's a piece of paper. Do we wanna have some type of test?
Well, what we talked about, well, what I was thinking was, when I left the workshop, was that, okay, if you have a maximum number for education that you can get.
Right.
And then we say, if you have this, then you have this. If you have this, because someone who's with a lateral should have everything.
Right.
But then if you got a kid that's coming out of A.T. Smith with some sort, it may not weigh as heavy as the person with a full lateral. But that's something that the commission can decide on what that looks like.
You know, or if they have certificates, they have to have a date limit on them. You know, certificate can't be 15 years old.
But
Well, some of them don't expire, so.
Yes.
Yeah, but,
Don't
okay,
expire.
so you took fire science 20 years ago.
that you're a fireman.
Fire science is fire science.
But a lot of stuff's
I don't
outdated.
know if
I don't know, I've been on the fire department, and it seems like we had some guys that didn't read the fire science book.
Okay. Oh, but that's the kind of discussion we'll have to
Yeah, we'll
have.
have to figure that out.
No, the lateral transfer that the police have, that's in their contract, and it's monetary. So that has nothing to do with us if it's in the contract. That's something that they're gonna have to they're gonna have to have their own language in the contract to get that correct?
Yeah, I'm not, that's a whole nother.
That's a whole, yes, it's,
That's nothing to do with
But
us.
that's why
Right.
you're a recruiter, because our longevity is pretty much, it's the most exclusive thing in the region. It just is. And we don't tout that enough.
But I think what Councilwoman's getting at is, if we get the education points up, that's gonna help the lateral transfers, because they have to go through the whole hiring process. It's not a automatic lateral transfer.
but they get more points
They'll get
for
more
that.
points on education, because they already have that education, and we just need to decide what points are gonna be allocated for what education, you know. Like you could do, if you went with a total of 15% or 15 points, let's call it, you can do 5 for EMT, 5 for something else, 5, I
Yeah.
don't stress
That's
with
kind of what
EMT.
I was thinking.
That's gonna save the city a lot of time and money.
A lot of money.
Yep.
The EMT portion, firefighter 1 and firefighter 2, you can look at that, or you can look at other education that's pointed towards our department. We don't need to get, anything out of the realm of what we do. We basically have, a dive team and rope rescue team, so, other than, maybe firefighter 1, firefighter 2, rope rescue, dive team, or dive certificates maybe, it's up to everybody to figure that out. But what we want to do is get those points available to somebody from a different department
Right.
and draw them here.
And you can use even officer classes.
You can do something like that? Yeah, whatever you, above and beyond firefighter 1 and 2 maybe, like fire science degree, a current fire science.
I think there should be a time limit on the certificate,
Sure, that makes sense.
whether it be
No.
5 years, 7 years, but there needs to be a time limit on how long ago they got that certification.
Does their merit rank transfer over, or do they start back out as a firefighter?
Start right at the bottom.
So that's what I figured. I know that's what Captain Lineski, when he went to Laporte County Sheriff's Office, he didn't keep his rank as a captain, he started out as a deputy.
That's the draw is the money.
Money.
Yeah,
They start over in seniority, but the money is the piece.
Their longevity comes with them.
Retirement, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The retirement stuff,
Yeah.
Yes.
but not seniority in the
Right.
system.
Right.
Correct.
And the other thing about interviews too, I'll say this, especially when it comes to firefighters, I'm not really firewomen. Long as they come presentable, I don't care if they can, recite a poem or a pledge or whatever. I just want to make sure that they can physically pick me up
Yeah.
from the house and follow instructions. So that's why.
also in the house and
I'm
save your
thinking-
baby dying of smoke inhalation.
They're gonna be trained to be firefighters, yeah, so I'm not, the interview, again, is so subjective that I think that, the less we weigh on it, and some people are just not good interviewers, quite
True.
frankly. As long as they come presentable, clean, and, and say hi and shake a hand, I mean, they should get points.
Nowadays,
Is there any place in the interview as it goes, do we have a question why they're transferring?
Put it on there.
Because of the fact, I mean, there could be some undesirable, something happened like that. I mean, because people like to hide stuff, and if they want to jump from one spot to another, I mean, I know.
I don't think you can, because if you're gonna be consistent in your questions across the board,
you can't discriminate
you
against the
can't
fans,
change,
can
you
you?
can't do that. I mean, I just don't
About
see
to
that.
pass?
You can ask them.
Well, I looked up their court records and let's see if they have any.
Yeah,
Well,
And
I've
that's,
seen that.
and ask
happen.
everybody that question.
whether or not they answer you is a different story.
Right.
Mr. McCord?
Yes, is the interview based upon a set amount of questions that's already set, that's done, that's over, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yeah, there's a form for it, and just 1, 2, 3, 4, they're right down the line, yeah. You can't put your own stuff in there.
Yeah, maybe you might want to just look at those
They're
and
pretty
see if those things are still something you would want to ask a candidate or not.
Yeah, but that's nothing to do as far as the person that's transferring from one
Yeah,
Trying to think of
house.
but then you say lateral transfers, and then you put a lot of emphasis on somebody with military background. Why don't you just put them all in the same category?
Well, I agree with you.
I don't understand that. Why not just put them all under the same category? Now you're saving more points. You can put points somewhere else now. Easier if you put military.
He's already a fireman.
Yeah.
Just because he was in the military doesn't mean he's a fireman in the military.
Right.
He's just
You can be a cook
military.
in the
I'm not
military.
saying for any role,
Right.
somebody that was at the military, but you guys are putting a lot of emphasis on the word military experience, so.
They only get 2 points or something like that right now.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
We talked about bringing it up to 5, didn't we?
Yeah, it's not a lot right now.
No, 5 is not much.
No, we've been all over.
I thought we were higher than that.
This chart's been all over the place,
Yeah,
and I don't think we're close yet.
Well,
yes.
y'all doing a good job talking about it. Some people won't talk about it.
No, you're
They
right.
won't change. So you guys are willing to do that, so.
I wrote down, I thought we lowered the written test to 50.
We lowered the written
Yes.
test to 50.
We went 15 on residency,
Yeah,
15 on military,
no,
15 on education, and either 5 on interviews or 4 on interviews, with 1 still being related to a fire department. Either somebody on the job or that has been off the job.
I didn't know we did military that high, but
15,
Well, the way the ordinance reads for the 1%,
lower.
it's supposed to be, it's for the child of firefighter or police officer killed in the line of duty, 1%. It's not a relation of a firefighter.
Oh, just kills.
Yeah, it's killed in the line of duty. That's how they get the
on the
1%.
job either though, just only,
Not just if you like Joe Zerbe's son, he doesn't get the 1%. It's if you're a child, a firefighter, or a police officer killed in the line of duty. That's 54-156.
that was 1%, right?
Yeah, that's the
I
1%.
left that the same.
Yeah. I had. I wrote down.
We're supposed to get back, we were gonna think about the numbers and get back.
Yeah.
That was gonna be at the next workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we were gonna talk about it tonight.
Right.
Oh, we got an else talk.
Turn into a workshop.
Yeah, but, but the only thing I knew, I lowered the written examination to 50%.
Yes.
That was the biggest one. And the residency was 15 still. And then I had some other things, because I wrote down EMT, Fire 1, Fire 2 as a part of the education, because we don't have education here at all.
No, I think you got taken off
We
completely.
took that completely out.
Really?
Yeah.
So-
education.
Not, it's just under 5 subsections. Written examination, 67%, Michigan City residency, 15%, personal interview, 15%, military service, either current or notwithstanding then honorable discharge, 2%, and child of firefighter, police officer killed in the line of duty, 1%, and then subsection B goes on to explain the consent agenda.
Because the
Or
written
consent
examination
judgment.
was 67.
Yeah, 67.
Yeah, I got,
Just
Kinda looks like somewhere along they dropped to 3% for the written examination for the military service and the
So you can
Child.
technically leave the
firefighter, policeman killed in line
so
of
how many
duty.
of these certifications are available?
A lot.
So,
Tons.
so do you get 5% for a certification or 2% for a certification?
How many
What for
certifications?
certifications, your certification for EMT, that's a big one.
That's a big one.
That should be 5%.
Up there, yeah.
Yeah. And what's your next big one?
You can have driver operator class, you can have fire officer 1, fire officer 2.
Those aren't as big as,
Let me ask this question.
CMP and-
I don't know if this is, who can answer it. So the program at the AK Smith, do they get Fire 1 and Fire 2?
They shoot for it, they try to, it just depends on how quickly he can move them along. 2 years ago, I believe he was able to get them through 1 and 2.
Okay.
This year, he got most of them through firefighter, I think all of them through firefighter 1 and some through firefighter 2. And it's optional, they're not required to take the state test at the end,
Okay.
so it just depends on them, on the student and how much time they have to dedicate to it. I could get with the instructor and get some definite numbers for you, but it's not a guarantee, let me put it that way. They shoot for it.
But if they enroll in it, that means they show that they want, they're taking a liking to wanting to do something like this if they do it at AK Smith.
First step anyway, yeah.
Right, so my question is, so you talk about residency, and I'm just gonna throw this out there because I wanna hear what you got to say about it. So, unlike, you're not like the police and, well, yes, you can get applicants from all over, but we're getting a lot of applicants from everywhere, and then after they do their few years, they leave and go back home. My whole thing with AK Smith is most of these people live in LaPorte County and typically are gonna stay around if they're in the career tech. If they're going to AK Smith, if they're not going off to college, they're staying here to try to get jobs.
Right.
So I would rather have a LaPorte County resident that's going to AK Smith, that's wanting to be a firefighter, than someone who's coming from Joliet or wherever in southern Indiana, and then whenever there's an opening in the fire department or police department, they decide to leave. So my question is, do you think there could be a minor consideration for someone who graduates from the AK Smith program?
Yeah,
Well, how old is he?
Well, that's a whole nother.
That's 18 there.
It's 18.
Everyone's gotta wait
Well,
3
you gotta
years.
wait 3 years.
Well,
Guys gotta wait
That's
3 years.
regulated by state law.
But I know
You change the
that-
state law to 18, we'll start accepting applicants for 18.
But they can't get through PERF, but there's other opportunities to use them in other places. And I'm not gonna go through that right now, because that'll take a whole other conversation. But will we consider that? Because this past group, we actually, and even with the fire, with the police, we actually got AK Smith grads finally. Because now that they've gone through that, we're finally starting to see some of them go through the testing. And hopefully, maybe in this round, I don't know if there was any in this round, but we're starting to see some of those kids that are 21 and 22 that are starting to show up now.
Well, you could change the age from 18 to 40. South Bend has 18. There's a few departments that hire 18-year-olds.
Well, it's regulated by state law, they gotta be 21. Statute says that.
No, sorry, Tommy, you're wrong.
Yes,
It's
I
already-
can
it's
pull it
already
up, I
happened.
should read it to you.
It's 18, but the question is, what are they doing for PERF? They just can't, they're not eligible for PERF until they're 21. So maybe there's something that's happening in that gap.
Yeah.
You know what, the fire chief over there, I'm friends with, I'll ask the question, I think this is a valid question to ask, but if they're taking applicants if they're taking firefighters under 21, because they can be volunteer firefighters, I thought, but they're not getting
I
compensated.
have seen the Mount Vernon Fire Department's taking 18-year-olds, but they might be set up different, I don't know.
It's all about perf though.
Right.
Perfect.
About
So,
perf.
so maybe there's something they're doing in between, maybe from
Maybe something should
18.
be done with PERF.
So the way I understand it is it's called the Police and Fire Indiana PERF.
Right,
Fire can get in to the Indiana PERF at 18, police has to wait till they're 21, I believe.
okay.
That's how it was explained to me, I don't know if it's
It might be.
I'll find that statute for the next meeting.
Handgun.
because of the handgun, correct? That's what I'm
But now that
assuming.
permits 18.
They might change that.
Too. So I can do some more research if you want.
I think you should.
I believe South Bend, I know South Bend does 18, Valparaiso, I've talked to that chief, he does 18.
And if they're in perf at 18, that's what
18,
we want
yes,
to know.
correct.
Yeah, because if they're going through the AK Smith Center to be a fireman or a police officer,
We're losing them.
yeah, because at 18, you know, what are they gonna do for 3 years?
Right.
Wait around to see if they can get on the fire department? I don't think it's gonna happen.
Oh, we lose them. So,
And then working
that
McDonald's.
sounds like you need to bring that
I don't
back.
know, I've seen guys at McDonald's making $180,000 a year that started right out of high school, so McDonald's ain't the worst job in the world. And they're starting at what, $17.50 an hour now?
All right. Well, and I will give that to Attorney Amber, on page 2, to check into the perk and you all.
Right. I'll make a phone call to the head of the perf and see.
Call on their side.
Yeah, me too.
Did you, think you wanted to, were we discussing setting a workshop up again?
No, it's,
Not yet?
no, I got some travel, a lot of travel, and the budget hearings are starting. So I'd rather just see what we can get done, you know, maybe just toss a few things back and forth and then let's get through that.
Maybe September, October?
September.
I think the biggest thing we're on is these percentages.
Right.
That's everything else was pretty much cut and dry, except trying to figure out how these percentages are gonna.
With final determination.
We'll shoot for something.
Anything else?
September, October.
Any other public comments? Commission comments?
You had,
Chief, yeah, the fire at St. Joe Club, when they had that food truck, anybody find out what caused it?
I don't know yet. I can talk to Jeff.
I mean, the thing was trashed, I know
I
that.
know he was just starting up to provide his food service that Sunday, and he did it 3 days before, so he probably had leftover grease in his, but that's all speculation on my part, but he was just starting up for Sunday.
For insurance or something like that.
I'll ask the fire marshal brewery to get back with you.
Because I seen pictures of it, and
I did too.
I walked down there and I seen it, I said, gee, for Christmas,
Yeah.
I know, it was bad.
it's a shame.
Any other commission comments?
Nope.
Need a motion to adjourn for next meeting will be August 7th, 5 PM.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too. Did you guys